Merry Christmas, folks, and welcome back to WWE Network and show where I, Graham, Jason Matthews, break down all the original content you watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the Christmas Eve edition, December 24th, 2022, of the SmackDown LowDown from Saturday. I'm actually surprised they even did a show. I was already banking on not doing a SmackDown LowDown review this week because it fell on Christmas Eve. I figured, I know they had SmackDown on Friday, thinking, I'm just thinking they probably won't do it. They obviously could have filmed it in advance. They obviously did. They weren't in the studio filming the show on Saturday morning, I'm sure. But I still thought they might not drop one on Christmas Eve, but they did. I found out a little bit later on that day, oh shit, they did do one, so here we are. Usually my SmackDown LowDown reviews go up earlier than this, but due to the holiday, it did not, so I appreciate your patience. But we had Scott Stanford filling in for Jackie Redmond this week. They opened the show per usual, running down the biggest headlines from SmackDown on Friday, including recapping the Miracle on 34th Street fight main event. Backstage, Megan Moran catches up with Braun Strowman, who gives Ricochet props for taking advantage of that distraction several weeks ago on SmackDown when Ricochet beat him in the semifinals of the World Cup tournament, and says that he's a great athlete. He got to team with him tonight. They were successful, whatever. And he does say he has not forgotten about Gunther, and he wants to be the one to take that Intercontinental Championship off of him at some point. They'll probably have the match either on, I would guess, the first SmackDown of the year. Won't be next week, or this coming Friday, rather. Or maybe even to the Rumble. That's probably more likely. Back in the studio, they replay the great Sami Zayn promo that opened SmackDown alongside the rest of the Bloodline. I thought that was great stuff. They preview next week's tag team match, one of the biggest televised matches all year. Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn teaming up to take on John Cena and Kevin Owens. And Matt Cam talks about how the pressure that's on Sami Zayn right now to deliver and to not cost he and Roman a victory. They also replay the Bray Wyatt promo, or at least a part of it, before he attacked the cameraman, which was more of the same from Bray. Matt Cam says that Bray just doesn't know how to channel his emotions right now, and that's why he's currently stuck. And I feel like we're all stuck in kind of purgatory until they move this program along with him in LA Knight. They recap the Emma segments where she lost to Xia Li in the opening round of the women's gauntlet match, more on that momentarily, and also her backstage slapping Scarlett, so they're clearly setting up a Emma. I thought they might have moved away from this, but obviously not. It looks like they're setting up an Emma, hopefully Riddick Moss and not Madcap Moss. They talked, they referred to him in both names here. Scott Stanford called him Riddick Moss at one point. Emma called him Riddick Moss backstage on SmackDown. But then Scott Stanford said before they threw it to the Emma interview backstage with Megan Moran on this show, he called him Madcap. So I don't know what the fuck's going on. But it does look like they're setting up a Moss and Emma tag team match against Cross and Scarlett. The Emma interview backstage wasn't really much of note. She was kind of joking with Moss, who walked in on Emma doing the interview. They joke with each other, and Moss asks her to spend Christmas with him in Minnesota. He says, it's going to be a white Christmas. And she said, I'm not a fan of a white Christmas. I'm not a cold person. She was clearly joking. They kiss, and that was it. So more of the same here from Emma and Moss, which was cute. They are a real-life couple, so it's nice they have that chemistry on screen as well. Matt Camp made a great joke here. He goes, when they cut back to the studio, he says, how do they not have Christmas plans? It was, if we're led to believe this was from 2 days before Christmas on the 23rd, then why the fuck would Moss and Emma not know what they're doing for Christmas, and why would she not have a plane ticket already to go to Minnesota for Christmas? What would she be doing for Christmas? Stay home, I guess, if her family's in Australia? I don't know. But anyway, they recap the Usos and Hit Row tag team match that saw the Usos retain in a pretty subpar match, in my opinion, to retain the undisputed WWE tag team titles. They also recap the Raquel Rodriguez victory in the gauntlet match to become the number one contender to the SmackDown Women's Championship against Ronda Rousey next week on SmackDown. Raquel tells Megan backstage that she proved that all she needs to win is one good arm. She proved that in the gauntlet match on SmackDown, and she wants to start the new year, 2023, as the new SmackDown Women's Champion. Pretty basic stuff here from Raquel. I like Raquel, but she's been very fucking boring as a babyface, so I don't know if they can turn her heel or just make her more interesting. They have a story here with her and Ronda. I just don't really care. They preview back in the studio the Ronda and Raquel match for next Friday on SmackDown, or this coming Friday at this point, for the title. Matt Camp acknowledges their history, and then they had a really good match, a short fun sprint on SmackDown earlier this year back in May for the championship that Ronda won. They had a rematch that was interrupted. That first match that Ronda won, though, was very good. Both women have been Ronda turned heel. She won the championship again after losing it, and Raquel became women's tag team champion. So Camp acknowledges they're not the same women that they were even 7 months ago. And what we get next Friday will be very different. And he acknowledges that Raquel has a chance to win, but he does pick Ronda because Raquel is one bad wing. So he's picking Ronda to retain. And they also hype up next week's show. In addition to that match, Solo Sikoa versus Sheamus on SmackDown on Friday. And as I said earlier, Sami and Roman against John Cena and Kevin Owens. So pretty standard edition of the SmackDown Lowdown here for a holiday show. I thought it was okay. The Moss and Emma stuff further that storyline with them being a couple on screen. We heard from Raquel hyping up the SmackDown Women's title match for this coming Friday. And we also got to hear from Braun Strowman as well, coming off his win in the main event on SmackDown. So nothing really to see here. Pretty fine filler stuff from the SmackDown Lowdown for the holiday show. Thank you guys for checking out my review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. And as I said, I think I said earlier, I definitely said this in my SmackDown audio review. I'm hoping to do a Ric Flair documentary review, the Woo Becoming Ric Flair doc, which I feel like, it feels like it's the fucking millionth documentary they've done on this guy in the last 5-10 years. Hoping to watch it, review it tomorrow here on the channel, if not tomorrow, then probably a little bit later on in the week. That being said, guys, have an awesome one. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.